Listen, I think it's time that we talk about the way that we consume music and do so in a way that avoids falling into the two traps that every discourse about this seems to fall into on the internet. Trap number one, music is dying and Spotify is killing it, which, shocker, mainly comes from old musicians and the ones that the majority of people have never heard of. Trap 2, this kind of weird tech bro utopianism of music has finally been completely democratized and
first and foremost, giving everybody the joys of creating music. It's not really enjoyable to make music now. People enjoy.
Why'd you say that? Why'd you say that?
I think the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of the time they spend making music.
And of course, it's our venture capital-backed AI tech startup that's behind this democratization, so sign up now, to the detriment of musicians everywhere. Here's what we actually know. Something is happening to music. And the root of this something is that streaming, mainly Spotify, has transformed music from a product that you own into a service that you rent. And music as a service is a completely different music industry. And a completely different music industry means that it's going to be a different type of artist that ultimately succeeds and shapes the culture. So I'd make the argument that this is pretty fucking important. Quick disclaimer for all the musicians that are listening out there, this is not another video about how to increase your monthly listeners or how to beat the algorithm. There are plenty of grifters out there on the internet that can provide that service for you. They're usually making facial expressions like this. They're pretty easy to spot. I'll give it a go. This changes everything. How do we all fall for this shit? Anyways, product versus service.
Okay, so he got the intro, okay? I mean, let's break it down. First of all, bam, 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 bam. Okay, with the classical.
Listen, I think it's time that we talk
from
about
the Clockwork Orange soundtrack, ultraviolence, call out there to cinema, to great cinema. Okay, we're talking about great cinema to start off with. Then he makes his points. He starts with listen. I like that too. He's like, listen, hey, listen. No intro, just listen.
About the way that we consume music and do so in a way that avoids falling into the two traps that every discourse about this seems to fall into.
So we're going to talk about music, and we're going to talk about the traps that these conversations fall into. I love that. He's introducing it. It's clear he wants to create a dialogue. He wants to do it in a way that doesn't fall into these predefined buckets that already exist on the internet, already over debated. And he's outlining the first trap, right?
On the internet. Trap number one, music is dying and Spotify is killing it, which, shocker, mainly comes from old musicians and the ones that the majority of people have never heard of.
Okay, so he's already saying old musicians and musicians nobody's ever heard of, we don't really want to take them into super consideration right now. And there's this discussion, they have this opinion, Spotify's evil, and we're going to put that aside. All right, let's see. Is that valid? I don't know. Let's see.
Trap 2, this kind of weird tech bro utopianism of music has finally been completely democratized and
first and foremost, giving everybody the joys of creating music. It's not really enjoyable to make music now. People enjoy.
Why'd you say that? Why'd you say that?
I think the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of the time they spend making music.
And of course, it's our venture capital-backed AI tech startup that's behind this democratization, so sign up now, to the detriment of musicians everywhere. Here's what we
Well, there's some statements there that we're gonna try to figure out and uncurl, but Spotify and music streaming is somewhere, and AI streaming and AI music creation and AI music is I think another thing. But here he's tying AI streaming and music democratization together. All right, let's see about that. But overall, I mean, I can see where he's going with that connection. where music is headed towards AI music. Anyway, let's
Actually,
see.
no.
But beautiful. That's trap number 2. All right.
Something is happening to music. And the root of this something is that streaming, mainly Spotify, has transformed music from a product that you own into a service that you rent. And music as a service is a completely different music industry. And a completely different music industry means that it's going to be a different type of artist that ultimately succeeds and shapes the culture. So I'd make the argument that this is pretty fucking important. Quick disclaimer for all the musicians that are listening out there, this is not another video about how to increase your monthly listeners or how to beat the algorithm. There are plenty of grifters out there on the internet that can provide that service for you. They're usually making facial expressions like this. They're pretty easy to spot. I'll give it a go. This changes everything. How do we all fall for this shit? Anyways, product versus service. Pound for pound.
So that was the first joke. That was the first joke of the video. I mean, beautiful. I think that's hilarious. We're all seeing this online. Very relatable. How do we fall for this shit? Who falls for this shit? Who falls? Why is everyone making the same fucking face and the same fucking video? And then people are buying their courses and joining their fucking whatever. So yeah. All right, moving on.
It's the best model for musicians, for listeners, and ultimately for the culture. This is Chords Discords.
Chords and Discords. I'm a fan. I gotta say, I'm a fucking fan already. Look at this. You got the intro video. Here's the intro clip, and now we got the real intro video. Little schizo post mixed. You know, we got classic cartoon, these little clips. Just loud and clear. And then we got this fuzz, like a 90s MTV little fuzz.
The foundation of this fight starts right here. It's ownership versus access. As a listener, you used to buy it. You used to take it home, you used to put it on, you used to listen to it, and at the end of the day, you owned that piece of music. Owning something creates a deeper connection.
Okay, he flashed to Napster there, right? Wink, wink, you pirating software, and really the first streaming service, if you really think about it, that was shut down by the music industry. All right, anyway, let's see where we go with it. But owning music, owning CDs, yeah, having it on your hard drive, not streaming.
And if you pay more for something, you also pay more attention to it. But back then, access to music was pretty limited. You had to go to a record store or you had to...
Napster. It's called file sharing.
Now with Spotify, it's any song, anytime, anywhere. But that access is granted by a corporate network, so that means that they can also pull any song, anytime, anywhere. And at the risk of sounding like a complete Spotify shill here, we do have to admit that it's not necessarily Spotify themselves that are doing the pulling, it's the artists. Back in 2022, Neil Young pulled his entire catalog off of Spotify to protest Joe Rogan's COVID misinformation. And then he put it back up. And then he took it down again.
I'm never going back there or anywhere else like it. I don't have to. I don't want to.
And now it's back up again. And every time that Neil Young does this, you lose access to his music. If you compare that with whatever physical album that you might own, Neil Young can't come down your chimney at night and take away the Harvest LP that you have. More recently, in 2025, bands like Massive Attack and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, they took their catalogs off Spotify to protest Daniel Ek's defense tech investments. These bands are sacrificing access to their catalog in order to take a moral stance, so fair play to them. Spotify is a tech company. Spotify has no moral stance to take because Spotify has no morals. To Spotify, Morals is just an indie rock band with 15 monthly listeners. So here we are, unlimited access or true ownership. But the thing about access is that someone else always holds the keys. With a service, Neil Young decides when he's done with you. But with a product, you can decide when you're done with Neil Young. And we have our first score.
Again, we had a few jokes there, but I like that. He just slapped Neil Young of the screen.
Service 0,
Scroll
product
up. Product, service 0. So, you know, we used to own shit. We used to own CDs and vinyls. And that meant that as long as we didn't break the vinyl or scratch the CD, we could listen to that song as much as we want. And we could put it anywhere we wanted. So, yeah. You know, and then later we could send it to anyone we wanted. And that's where Napster became a problem because, you know, the industry realized people were sending each other files, music and so on, movies. And, well, yeah, so product 1, service 0. Let's go on.
Round number 2, scarcity versus abundance, the price tag for listeners. $15 for a CD, or even more for vinyl, or $15 a month for every song ever made. Service ties it up on this one. Round number 3.
I mean, he didn't go any further into that. The idea is, yeah, the deal of Spotify is just, you know, there's no way to match the convenience of just having access to almost every song ever made. Yeah, that's as simple as that for that price. You know, like any way, even if you were to pirate that music, by the time you search it and download it, and you know, you're already waste more time. It's probably cheaper to just pay the $15 subscription fee.
Dollars versus time, the payments for musicians. In order to understand this round, we're gonna have to talk about something that musicians are famously and pathologically.
Ooh, first little movie cut out here. We got a little setup from Eyes Wide Shut, and what's this? Werner Touts. I guess that's gonna be the music call out. Let's see, Werner Touts.
Bad at discussing. We need to talk about money.
Yeah, I guess so.
When I was in high school, I was in a thrash metal band, and after scraping together every dollar that we had,
Baby, look at him. That's him in a high school thrash metal band.
we printed 500 copies of our very first CD. The whole run cost us about $1,100 or $2.20 per CD. We weren't the greediest of thrash metal capitalists.
You know what? Maybe I wouldn't have to whore myself out if you kids didn't steal my music.
We, sold those CDs for like $5 each, but even then, that resulted in something like $1,400 worth of profit that allowed us to then buy the next batch of CDs and print our first t-shirts. Then later, when we signed to an independent record label called Earache Records, the math just scaled up. We would buy one of our CDs for $4 before going on tour, and then we would sell that CD for $15 at shows. For that $11 of equivalent support, a fan would have to stream our song something like 3,000 times. And even if it's not a 2-second grindcore song from our old label mates in Napalm Death, that's still like hours and hours of streaming. In the product model, it didn't matter if that fan bought the CD and listened to it once or 3,000 times. And in the case of my thrash metal band, I don't think anyone was hitting play on that. They were just happy to support a bunch of kids living out their stupid dream of being out on the road. And $15 is a lot easier to part with than 150 hours of your time. This round is not even close. Product gets a good solid win.
So let's recap that because it's kind of a subtle point. He's saying he was selling $15 CDs at his thrash metal shows, right? And that people were buying them to support him and his dream and his vision and his band, but not necessarily because they were going to go home and listen to the CD. It was just an easy way to basically make a contribution to their dream. And he's saying the equivalent that these people would have to listen on Spotify is 150 hours for them to get the same, $10 or $12 profit that they got from selling one CD at a show, right? So a fan now would have to go on Spotify and basically dedicate 150 of their hours of playing their thrash metal music versus buying a CD back in the day. And so product wins there, even as a token, even as a token of support, it wins over saying like, hey, subscribe to my Spotify or listen to my Spotify, right? How many people are going to listen to 150 hours of your music in their lifetime if you're an indie, just a high school metal band? It's a good point.
Let's get into round number 4, gatekeepers versus democracy. The old system definitely came with a cost of entry. If you wanted to play the game, you kind of had to pay to play.
Now, there's no way to guarantee a hit, but if someone were able to determine what records were to be played and influence the likes and dislikes of the potential buyers, that person would be in a very powerful position in the industry.
That's why this old system favored major labels, because they had the capital and the connections to actually invest in something of that scale.
And a man associated in the management of a famous rock group told CBS News, quote, "If you needed an ounce of cocaine that minute, there was a place at CBS Records you could get," end quote.
Plus, you have to consider that shelf space in record stores was limited, as was airplay on things like MTV and the radio.
New York State Attorney General Elliot Spitzer says record labels have been rewarding the radio stations that play their songs with bribes and cash.
If the gatekeepers did not choose you, you did not get in. Today, it's a completely different world, though.
An industry in turmoil.
You can upload your music to Spotify and any streaming service using things like DistroKid and CD Baby for virtually no money, and assuming that you can get some attention on it, it doesn't really cost you anything more whether 10,000 people listen to it or 1 million people listen to it. The barriers are gone, and anyone can enter the arena. Service 2, product 2, and we're all.
Well, I think there needs to be a little time out here. This democratization of music is a technological thing. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything with Spotify or the service element. Even if you look at Radiohead in 2006, released In Rainbows and let everyone download it for free or for whatever money they chose to donate. So the democratization, even though they were, already a well-known band, anyone could do that and basically just post their audio on a file share, downloadable media, and let anyone donate for to support the band. So that democratization came before Spotify, in my opinion, and it can live in parallel to Spotify. So I don't know if that's a point for service, but yeah, if we just did the old way versus the new way, but then it wouldn't be product versus service. The old way, yeah, we got to keep in mind that we still got products and service. Yeah, I don't know about that one. That's a weird one. Okay, so we still have the product is still there, and you can still just make it available. Anyway, let's see. It is way cheaper to make it available now. Back then, when this guy was in high school, he had to make those CDs, cost him $2 a pop to make the CD. Now he can put it up online for free, and he can put it on Spotify for free and on YouTube for free. So yeah, in that way, it's democratic. But can he get it on not MTV, but can he get it on the radio for free? No, I don't think so. Can he get it? Can he get the backing of a record label for free? I don't think so, right? So the gatekeepers are still there, even in the service model, and maybe it's even worse. So I don't think this round totally makes sense, but we'll move on.
All tied up. Round number 5, hit versus shit. The beauty of streaming is that anyone can upload their music. The horror of streaming is that anyone can upload their music. In 2024 alone, Spotify was said to have uploaded 120,000 new songs every single day. Now, sure, this democratized access seems like a dream come true, but let's just say that the hit to shit ratio back in the product days sure seems a hell of a lot better.
Pedo in nature. Let's do the swap. MC, come, let me hear it one more. You get off to the creek over it. Progressive flesh like this deserves to be anything with fire.
Just like that first time.
So maybe there's something to a little bit of gatekeeping.
I mean, yeah, that speaks for itself. But maybe gatekeeping is just not going on TikTok. You know, like just don't go to the slop fest and Instagram and some of YouTube. You know, you kind of keep it to, well, I don't know. Somehow those things can make it through to you.
Gentlemen, please.
The product industry gave us plenty of things like butt rock and industry plans and disposable pop, but those same evil gatekeepers also gave us Led Zeppelin and Joni Mitchell and Miles Davis and Johnny Cash and Depeche Mode and Metallica. And now we've got things like AI slop and stock background music made by ghost artists that's infiltrating streaming services, not to mention...
Okay, but hold on. Again, we're pretending like the gatekeepers are not giving us the AI slot. I'm not sure about that. I think they got a part to play in you know.
Millions of amateurs with the keys to the factory here.
This American scream.
So
subtly plugging his song there, but it's a great song. Go support this guy. Go listen to his song, American Scream. Let's go.
Say what you will about the gatekeepers, but me personally, I'll take a puddle of mud over a bucket of AI slop any day.
Beautiful. Puddle of mud over a bucket of AI slop. I think here he's saying puddle of mud was an industry plant.
Service 2, product 3.
My name is Julian. I'm an AI voice hired by Chords and Discords to read this ad, so that an actual human didn't have to. You have been watching Chords and Discords. This was your decision. Should you have found what you watched to be of value, there are a small number of actions available to you. A subscription, a like, and should the mood take you, a share, delivered to whomever in your life you feel deserves it. For people who listen dangerously.
I delivered the message. Now what?
Now let's check the second message.
Got the message?
Subtle, not so subtle.
Round number 6, the mass market versus the niche nation. The old product-based model defined culture. The new service-based model allows us an infinite amount of ways to define culture for ourselves. The mass market had its gatekeepers, but it also gave us a shared cultural experience. In the 50s and 60s, AM radio ruled over everything. Everyone knew the top 40, and then these were then the same songs that you would find in musical jukeboxes all across the country. When the musical culture was unified, American culture was also a lot more unified. And of course, you can make a case that American culture was unified because it was
irresistibly quaint.
By the 1970s, FM radio and the rise of the long play album made music into an art form and an industry. And when things like corporate rock and disco clogged up the airwaves, MTV became the fiber that the music industry needed in order to keep things moving. We were all watching the same videos and listening to the same songs and buying the same albums. This was mass culture. The internet has completely flipped mass culture on its head. Mass culture has transformed into this infinite patchwork of microcultures. Hits don't hit the same way anymore. And the same algorithmic personalization that allows us to discover niche music also pushes us into deeper and deeper echo chambers. So who wins this round? Well, the mass market gave us unity and the niche nation gives us freedom. So I think we can call this one a draw. Round 7, analog versus lossless.
I mean, there was a big statement about culture and everyone watching the same thing, or everyone kind of being spread out into these niches and echo chambers. But is that because of streaming? Is it because of social media? Is it because of gatekeepers to music? I'm not sure. I don't know. But he's making the point it is. Yeah, it's an interesting point. Let's see.
The listening experience. We've all heard it, vinyl sounds better. Analog captures the real sound wave, which is a smooth curve, but digital chops it up into a bunch of little pieces and turns it into ones and zeros. And therefore, analog is pure and real, and yeah, that's kind of bullshit. Even a standard digital audio file samples that sound 44,100 times per second. High resolution lossless audio can go all the way up to 192,000 times per second.
Extreme violence.
That is way beyond what the human ear can even hear. Oh, I'm sorry, you can hear the difference because you're special.
Hey, what's going on? You hear that?
Beautiful, beautiful.
And let's talk about vinyl. Every speck of dust and microscopic scratch all add up to that authentic listening experience.
If you have a properly placed needle, carefully, slowly, line the needle up. Don't try it yourself, because if the needle's crooked, you will just...
Not to mention that the needle actually grinds away at that record every time it gets played, which means that that nice warm sound is actually the sound of your record degrading. And also, notice how the groove...
See, now he started this Jared Leto thing, you know, that you can see
warm sound is actually the sound
come up in these... but he never mentions it verbally, you know. So someone that you know, is visually impaired, they're not going to know about this side plot of Jared Leto needing to be canceled.
Of your record degrading. And
I think
also
that's
notice how the
funny.
grooves of the record get smaller and smaller as you get towards the center.
The parallel between the needle of the, you know, of the record player and the heroin needle is pretty hilarious.
Which means that there's less room for audio data there, and things like bass and treble actually get worse the closer and closer you get to the end of either side. At this point, it's not even an analog versus digital fight, it's just pure digital on digital violence. Multiple blind test studies have shown that the majority of listeners can't tell the difference between a standard audio file and a true lossless format. So none of this fucking matters anyway. We're gonna have to give it to Service on this one. Service 4, product 4 as well.
I mean, here, I don't know if I would give it to Service. The idea that the quality of audio is not any better on a CD or on a vinyl. Yeah, but you know, Service. Well, yeah, I guess that's what we're talking about. I gotta remind myself that's what we're talking about, because yeah, imagine you had like a product. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's an awkward situation. Like, imagine all music was free, but you got to send money to whatever band you wanted to support. That's how that's the only way that it could, or, you know, or they just sell merch at the end of the day. They literally just sell merch. And that's actually what the reality is anyway. Even some well-known bands, they don't really make any money off of streaming. They got to go tour and they got to sell merch. That's the only real money they actually get. All that streaming money just goes to a record company, or if anything comes through anyway. So.
Round number 8, plastic versus carbon, the environmental impact. Have you ever wondered why vinyl is called vinyl? Well, it comes from polyvinyl chloride, or PVC, and PVC is one of the most toxic plastics ever created. And PVC manufacturing is barely regulated despite the fact that it's linked to things like, brain cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, nerve damage, and a host of autoimmune issues. And if that's not enough, then gentlemen, it affects your balls and makes you impotent. And ladies, you're not off the hook either because it's linked to things like irregular menstruation, fertility issues, the works. The real horror is that PVC doesn't just sit there. It degrades over time, especially when you drag something like a needle across it, but even something like exposing it to fresh oxygen will
again, the Jared Leto.
Do it. As this happens, PVC does something called outgassing, which releases microscopic particles into the air. These particles then go into your lungs, they enter your bloodstream, they eventually reach your liver, and then your liver goes like, what the fuck is this? And it starts turning it all into this weird cocktail of chemicals, and these chemicals are ones that your body can never get rid of. Time to throw out your record collection. Wait, you can't do that because throwing out your record collection might be even worse. When PVC gets thrown out, it releases something called dioxins, which are some of the deadliest chemicals ever, and they stay in the environment for decades, which really makes you wonder if that disco demolition night that happened in my hometown of Chicago back in 1979 wasn't the result of these people just tripping massive fucking balls on all the chemicals that they were releasing into the air. Sure sounds like it.
And so that's why you never do this. I can't believe I'm doing this. Do not touch your record. It's not a Frisbee.
I know that streaming isn't innocent here either. We can get into the complicated carbon footprint that is left by streaming companies, but in that case, we better start with the biggest offenders, which currently are Disney+, Netflix, Pornhub, and YouTube. And listen, there's no judgment here. You're an adult and you still have a Disney+ subscription. That doesn't mean... So whether you care about the environment or you think caring about the environment makes you some kind of woke liberal, at least streaming doesn't kill your balls.
Come on, Jack, do the fucking right thing here.
That's hilarious. I mean, it just...
Round number 9, the soul versus machine. Let's try and zoom out and try and look at music as a service and music as a product as systematically as possible. Because when recorded music becomes a service or something that you rent instead of own, then the art has to change in order to fit that system. Think about what a service-based system actually means.
Feel like spending some of your hard-earned money?
And that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these
Plug for his merch.
If you think about a classic
Sipping
service-based
tea.
industry like a haircut, you don't spend months and months trying to craft the perfect haircut for someone. You have to do a good job on it, but a month later, you're gonna have to do the exact same thing all over again. Because a service-based industry thrives on repetition, and it doesn't really care about perfection. There's no such thing as a masterpiece haircut. And no offense to any barbers out there. So this raises the question of whether or not the model that we are in goes against the very nature of what it takes to make really great art. Artists as a personality type want to create masterpieces. We want to spend months, even years, perfecting something.
So that it slides perfect.
And a lot of times it does feel like a choice between, feeding the algorithm to feed ourselves or embracing the archetype of the starving artist and, making really great art. And the result of this kind of system is not only a potential decline in the amount of masterpieces that we get, but this ever widening gap between the artists that do make it and the artists that do not. So let's look at the actual data. In 2024, out of 11 million artists that are currently on Spotify, only 22,100 made more than $50,000 a year, and only 1,500 crossed the $1 million
artists.
mark. In a product-based model, making $1 million might mean something like selling 100,000 albums. But in today's service-based model, making $1 million takes closer to 250 million streams. Now, it feels like a mic drop moment for
streams.
Music as a product. Streaming barely flinches here. Most of those 11 million artists that are currently on Spotify wouldn't have even made it into the arena back in the old product-based model. There would have been no record deal, no shelf space, and no airtime. And sure, maybe we get fewer masterpieces now, but Beauty is in the ear of the listener anyways, and you get to determine what is a masterpiece or not. And we still got Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. And if you want to talk money, streaming made up 84% of the music industry's $17.7 billion in revenue in 2024. And that is revenue that has increased every single year since the dawn of streaming. And let's not forget that that number could have been zero based on how badly the music industry handled that whole Napster situation. Not to mention that Goldman Sachs, who allegedly know a thing or two about money, predict that the global music market will double by the year 2035. And this will easily surpass the peak of the product-based model in 1999. And if you're still not convinced that this is a knockout for streaming, then let's take it to a judge's decision. And
I mean, if you're gonna compare it to 1999 peak of the product-based model, you have to also look at inflation. I don't know if he's using inflation-adjusted numbers here.
Who are the judges? It's us. And with 700 million monthly active users and 11 million artists still on Spotify, I'd say that it's pretty fucking unanimous.
See, in this Jared Leto joke, like, what are we doing?
Feel like a bit of a rug pull here. Even though I think music as a service is kind of a pretty clear winner here, it's hard to fully be kind of happy about it, you know? And maybe this loss just mirrors something much bigger happening in society with things like money and housing and privacy and identity. Maybe we have lost something kind of critical when we stopped owning music. So the question then becomes, is there anything after this? Is there something that can ultimately replace streaming? Now, this question first popped into my mind while reading the music industry newsletter, The Lefsetz Letter.
Idiots.
Bob Lefsetz is a music critic who's said a lot of interesting things over the years, but he's probably most famous for being the only man that Taylor Swift ever wrote a song about that she hadn't dated. So there's something to be said for that. Let's hear what he has to say.
There is nothing beyond Spotify because Spotify is on demand. They deliver it when you want it. There is nothing beyond that, okay?
And I guess this is it. The end-all be-all of musical consumption. But there has always been change in the way that we consume music, and there have always been critics that have said the exact same thing as Bob Lefsetz.
There is nothing beyond that.
You could say that the story, or the song, has always remained the same. From the gramophone to AM radio, to vinyl records, to transistor radios, to 8-track tapes, to FM radio, to cassette tapes, to MTV, to CDs, to MP3s, and illegal downloading, to the iPod and digital music players, to YouTube, and now streaming. Video killed the radio star, and streaming killed every star that came before it, so why wouldn't there be something that kills streaming? This has been Chords and Discords. Stay tuned.
What's gonna kill streaming? All right, Conrad, just look at this. We got shout outs here. Clockwork Orange, Madman, Raging Bull, Requiem for a Dream, Reservoir Dogs, The Good Bad and the Ugly, Eyes Wide Shut, Blue Velvet, Apocalypse Now, American Psycho, Full Metal Jacket, Wolf of Wall Street. Beautiful.
Fantastic chick.
So we got the shout out, the music. All right, so we got, like, it's beautiful. He's giving shout outs to all of these. Obviously, YouTube is demonetizing them and sending money to all of these different places. And by being demonetized, he's able to just use all this beautiful music and all these beautiful clips from movies. It's genius. It's genius. And if I just follow into this, doing this, well, I mean, first of all, I'm just inspired by this level of work, the branding, the direction, I just think it's very, very well done. I wish I can make something as cool as this, So right now I'm just reviewing how great it is. Hopefully, sending some more people to watch this guy's work, this guy's channel. And then hopefully I can learn how to make some of these, some videos, some educational, like I feel like it's entertainment, it's educational, history, introduces you to some of these old movies, some of this old music, you know, which I think is so important for the new generation, you know, that are born into these niche streaming landscape. You know, they got to go back and rediscover what was the monoculture before the, you know, before 2012 or 2007, I don't know, when it broke into all of these niche subculture, and then into just basically niche, like meme cultures. Like they're not even subcultures, they're like microcultures. So incredible. So what do we have here? Public domain, Internet Archive, Nine Inch Nails, Ghosts. Fair use doctrine for purposes of criticism, comment, scholarship, and parody. No infringement is intended. All right, so that we got that on there. No infringement is intended. Incredible. And I wonder how it goes for me doing this React video. You know, like, can I just react to the whole video? Is that infringement? I don't know, but I'm gonna find out. Loud and clear. All right, so that's that for today. Yeah, hope you enjoyed watching me enjoy the fuck out of this video. And yeah, hear you on the next one.